stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we'll do roll call, please, Ashley. Councilmember Waller,
Yes.
Selby,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Goldson. Yes. Mayor Dees. All right, any citizens' comments? Okay, seeing that we have none. No public hearings tonight either, so we will move on to reading and approval of minutes.
I will move approval of the regular minutes from October 25 meeting.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. And the condensed version.
I'll move approval of the condensed version of the 10:25 minutes.
I will second. All approval, say aye.
Aye.
Sorry, lost my train of thought. Motion carried. How about the budget work session minutes? Do we get, yeah, they're there.
I'll move approval of the budget work session minutes.
I will second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. And we have the consent agenda, which includes the audit of city bills, an application to conduct excluded bingo from the Women of Today, a raffle license report from the VFW, gambling reports, and transit report. And I will move approval of those.
I will second.
Any questions?
I just had a question on line number 8, to Bargain Incorporated. It said, the way it was stated here, it said street department crack repairs as bid, for $15,000. Did we actually do that work, or did we have someone else do it? The as bid kind of threw me there.
No, that's work that they do for us.
So they
then,
did it.
the Public Works Director will get bids to do that work for us.
Oh, okay. All right, so they actually did the work then too. Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Any other questions? Okay, so there was a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Petitions, requests, and communications. So we have a request to accept donations from the Morris Lions Club. Is that two separate ones or one?
No, that's one.
Well, I think I was confused because in the memo, it said something about lights on the prairie, and then there was written for rubber matting on East Side Park Playground.
Which memo was it?
Christmas lights on the prairie, the memo in the check.
Oh,
Yeah. For matting on East Side Park Campground is what it looks like they're, yeah, and then in the memo section on the check, they say lights on the prairie.
So I was just.
oh,
wondering.
yeah, this is for the matting at East Side Park.
That's from money raised from the Lights on the Prairie.
Oh, the money they raised.
Yeah.
Okay,
To pay for the mat.
Yep.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
If you don't mind me interrupting.
thank you. No, that, clear, because I was wondering, are we doing two different things or what? Okay, so that makes sense. So the money that they raised, they want it to go to the rubber matting on East Side Park.
And
Okay,
that's East Side Park.
Yeah.
Yes, they're talking about rubber
Playground.
matting to get some of the handicap accessible
Well,
to some of the equipment.
yeah, that one you'll actually, if you see the merry-go-round there, you'll see that rubber matting that was put around it. You know, to keep, when they have merry-go-rounds, the little kids will start digging a trench and it gets deeper and deeper and deeper. And so with that matting, it keeps that from happening. So that's there already.
And is it just gonna be over that particular equipment, or is it gonna be over all the equipment, or?
That's what this is for, is just that equipment.
That-
But then we actually started getting some matting for conveyor material from Superior, and so then if you go over there, you'll see some strips of that are put in there to go into the handicap, into the playground set, so that worked out pretty good.
Yeah, I know that stuff's expensive, that $2,500 probably doesn't go
Yep.
real far, so.
Okay,
I will move accepting the donation from the Morse Lions Club for the stated project.
I'll second that.
okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Ordinances and resolutions. We have a resolution approving a memorandum of understanding for wage adjustments in the APSME General Union contract.
Yeah, and there's actually, we put on the table a document that came from, it's actually from me to the union rep for AFSME, and if you look at the memorandum of understanding, actually Stacy Mogard started loading information into the system, so in preparation for dealing with this, because it's going to be effective with this pay period that we're in now. But she noticed that something didn't look right, and so if you look at that memorandum of understanding, the line items for 2022 are actually incorrect. And so then I provided you this email with the correct ones that I had sent. So what happened was we traded emails back and forth. We had the information correct, and then when we got the memorandum of understanding, the final one that they signed, the numbers are wrong. So the numbers for 2022 should be $15. We talked about starting at $15 per hour. Then it should be $15.45, $15.91, $16.39, $16.88, $17.39, and $17.91. And then the numbers for 2023 are correct. They're 2.5% more than that, because that's what the wage increase is for next year. So my recommendation is that you approve the resolution with the updated information on the memorandum of understanding, and then I'll go back to the union and have them just reapprove that. It's actually more money in 2022, but that's the way it was supposed to be. And then that puts everybody on the same, the library ones, the liquor store clerks, and the airport manager are on the same pay line. And the union did meet, and they did look at that, and they did approve it.
Yeah, I think it's a good deal, you know, we need to remain competitive in the labor market, so.
Well, yeah, and, you know, when they're starting at $13 an hour as liquor store clerks, and McDonald's is paying 17, you know, we do have pay steps that get them up to a higher pay, but it takes a little while to do that. So my recommendation is that you approve the resolution approving the memorandum of understanding with that change, and then I'll go ahead and get it done with the union rep.
Just a quick question, Blaine, on, those employees get any other benefits at all?
The part-time employees don't get a lot of benefits. There depends on how many hours they work. If they're 30 hours a week, they do get a $100 insurance amount that they can use towards health insurance, and they do get a little bit of sick leave and a little bit of vacation.
Okay. Okay, thank you. I'll move on that resolution approving a memorandum of understanding for the wage adjustments as listed for the AFSCME General Union contract.
I will second.
Okay, we'll have roll call vote.
Councilmember Waller,
Yes.
Selby,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Boatswain.
Yes. Okay, then we have a resolution setting polling places.
So one of the things that the state legislature did is by December 31st of each year, you have to set your polling places for the upcoming year. And I don't know why they did. I think what happens is, there might be special elections and stuff like that, and they just wanted to make sure everybody knew where they're gonna be voting in the upcoming year. So it is a requirement that we have, and we're gonna have a lot of stuff coming up in December, so, we put that one on this agenda to get it out of the way. State requirement.
Okay. Same polling places, so everybody's used to knowing where they go, so. I'll move on that resolution setting polling places for 2023.
I'll second that. You know, Blaine and I texted Blaine, or we communicated about, I had a couple people inquiring about where to vote. And I just thought it would have been a nice idea for us to have a drop-down link somewhere on our website where people could go. If it's you know, we know how to probably find that information, but there are people out there that probably don't. And, you know, we have, you know, I just think if we can communicate that to the people that are, because they probably know how to get to a website, but they may not know how to find out where they vote. I don't know. I just thought maybe it's unnecessary, but I just thought it might be helpful for some
Yeah,
people.
Very helpful.
I think it would have been it would have been a good thing to do. I know they, when we changed everything, and actually, I realize there's a mistake on this resolution, because we no longer have 6 precincts, so it's precinct 1, precinct 2, and precinct 3.
Yeah, so 1B, 2B, and 3B go away.
Yeah, they go away.
Okay.
Do you just say 1, 2, and 3, not
1,
the
2,
eight?
and 3.
Yeah.
Yep. But yeah, you know, I know when we made changes, the county sent out notices to all the registered voters about the changes and where to vote. I know there's been a lot of information that's been put out about polling places and stuff, and the Secretary of State's website actually has a really easy finder for where you vote, no matter where you are in the state of Minnesota. To have a link to that is,
Yeah, if
you
we
know,
had a link for that, it would be
yeah,
easy. Then they
it-
just go to
you
that
know,
link and type in their zip code.
we started
and
doing more
done.
work with the website, but elections are every 2 years, so that
It could
is,
stay on there, though. It's not
Yeah.
a big deal to leave it sitting
yeah,
on the website
yeah,
either. that
that's
this
the
is where-
easiest place to
Yeah,
go.
because
and-
we have that how to, and then all those different things, how to pay your bill, how to,
Where to vote.
yeah, where to vote.
Well, and
That'd be the place.
The other
I
thing is,
think
if you
it
wanna
should go.
find out what the results are in the election, the fastest place to do it is to go to the Secretary
Yeah.
of State's website for all the elections in Minnesota. You, if you know what, Senate district you're in, you know what House district you're in, you can just go to that and you'll see all the results for that. All the city elections will be, on this, that's where they report all the information to when it comes in at the county, is to the Secretary of State's office, so, that's where I'll be looking to find out what the results are tonight. Yeah, so I'm recommending with the changes that we talked about here.
Okay, so do we have to redo the motion, or just?
I
as
think
is?
if there's a friendly, was there a first and second?
Yeah.
Yeah, there was.
Yeah.
Just if it's a friendly, change to it, that'd be fine.
Okay, so we'll need roll call vote on that?
Councilmember Selby,
Yes.
Waller,
Yes,
Miller,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Belton.
Yes. All right, and last on the ordinances resolutions is the first reading of ordinance number 117, amending the Morris City Code sections pertaining to stormwater management and enforcement.
Yeah, and there's one slight change on this too, and I put that on your table. Actually, the Bolton and Mank, our water wastewater people, are the ones that are working with us on the stormwater permit. As you know, we got audited by the state of Minnesota, and that really came out fairly well. We had a lot of, not a lot, but some documentation issues that we had to have. But one of the things that we needed to do is update our stormwater codes in the city of Morris. The change is on, let's see, the second page. It should be down on the bottom. Section 15.02, stormwater management, shall read, projects required to submit a stormwater it's a document that they have for, their planning for stormwater, shall not receive permits until the city has approved their stormwater plan. I had to retype the information that was required by the state in our ordinances, and somehow I missed a not. So that gets added to it. And realistically, this is, this requires a motion for the first reading and then setting the second reading for the next city council meeting at 5:20 it should be. And then that, we'll have a public hearing on that so people can come and talk about it. If they want to talk about it, we'll publish a notice in the newspaper about this. The one thing I would tell you is when I looked through the city code and the charter, this is a long ordinance. Normally our ordinances aren't this long. And we are allowed, we'll publish a notice with the basic information about it. We'll have the ordinance on file here. And when it gets published, we'll probably just publish a short narrative about it, which is allowed in the charter as long as 4 of the 5 council members vote to do that. Otherwise, we'll publish this whole thing in the newspaper, which sometimes gets expensive. But what we're looking for is the first motion to allow the first reading and to set the hearing for the next city council meeting, November 22nd. And then actually Bolton and Mank will be here to explain what all this stuff means, because some of it's technical as to why we have to do this. And then just as a side note, anytime we're doing anything in chapter 11, it has to go to the planning commission for a review, and we may have to change how we're doing that. But the planning commission, we're gonna have a meet next Tuesday to look at this. And the only change in the chapter 11 is the storage of outdoor salt. And you can just think of where you see salt stored in gas stations and outside Willys and a couple other places. I think they're all okay. It's just that we have to have it in our ordinance that we have to watch over that, because that could run into the stormwater.
How are you watching over that? I mean, what did they, just like, just
Just,
saying you're watching over it? Or?
well, no, they have to have it covered. So like I think every one of them's covered. If they're not covered, or if we happen to see that there's a problem with it, one of the things I shared with the city council before is part of this MS4 permit is we have to be actively watching for stuff like, people doing things in the streets that's, mowing grass in the streets, putting your leaves into the streets and all that kind of stuff. And we're gonna start working on implementing, that process of watching over everything. Because if we don't, then we'll be in violation of the permit, and then potentially we could be fined for not doing that.
So like the softener salt storage that like the hardware store sits out on their front on flats.
Yeah,
That's
they
what
might
we're
have-
looking for?
yeah,
I mean,
that
would
absolutely.
be what,
Yep.
making sure that like nobody's punched a hole and there's.
That and, that they're not leaking and
Wow.
running into the street, and I don't know where all that, I was driving by the high school and they had a fundraiser for something. I don't know who was doing it, if it was softball or whoever, and they're selling softener salt, and so the parking lot was filled with pallets of not filled, but there's pallets of softener salt there. But that was just a temporary thing, because I think they came and then everybody came and got their stuff and it was gone, even though there's a few bags that are left now, but they're right next to a stormwater holding pond. So all the runoff goes down to that pond, sits in the pond, and eventually comes into the city system. But this is all required by state law. So you don't have a lot of choice in what we're doing. We're just, and in some cases, we're streamlining ours so that it just matches state law as opposed to putting in technical information, because if they change their law, then we'd have to change the ordinance again. So there's a little bit of that, but Bolton and Mank did a really good job of reviewing all of our stuff, and providing us with the information that we needed to be able to update this.
So we're looking for a motion to set the first reading of this ordinance number 117 to November 22nd at 5:20.
The motion would be to allow the first reading tonight, which we
Okay,
don't
tonight.
technically read through it all, but
Okay.
allow the first reading tonight and set the second reading for November 22nd at 5:20. And then we'll have a public hearing before that.
I will move approval amending the Morris City Code sections pertaining to the stormwater management and enforcement. Approval of the first reading for tonight and set the second hearing or reading on that to November 22nd at 5:20 at our next meeting.
I'll second. We'll have roll call vote on that.
That's just a
That's just-
motion.
Oh,
You
that's a
could just
motion, sorry.
Do it like the rest of them.
Okay, all in favor, say
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carried. All right, the city manager's reports and recommendations.
I gave a couple updates on the discussion we had at the last meeting about handicapped accessibility at the library. That, you know, what was brought up to us was not the case. And actually, I went and talked with Ann, I went and checked all the doors and everything, and there were some cracked sidewalks over there, so if you go by there now, you're gonna see that we painted the cracks with brightly colored paint, which is something that we started doing on sidewalks where, you know, tree roots are pushed up and stuff like that to identify possible tripping hazards. And then the plan is in the spring to have the concrete cutter come in and take a look at that and shave them down so that they're smooth. The other thing that I put in here is just a little, the process of data requests. You know, when somebody comes in and starts just throwing out questions and asking them, that's fine. I answer a lot of questions all the time, but when it gets to be a point that it seems like, I mean, you had somebody standing before you that basically threatened to sue the city, you know, and then was, you know, making a comment about how their question was asked but not answered. And what I do, because I get this from time to time as a city manager, and I'm overall responsible for the data requests that are happening. I like to have people ask me officially what they want, and then I answer them officially, and then we actually have a file where we record that. But the one thing I just wanted to point out here is that data is something that we have, not something that somebody wants us to make up. So if somebody comes in, I have this happen probably once or twice a year, somebody will go, I want a list of all your employees, their names, what they're getting paid, what their job is, what their benefits are, and then my response to them is, we do not have that, and we're not required to give you that. You know, so if I have a list that has that on there, and it's public data, sometimes I go to Aaron and ask him, is this okay to give out public data that's based on this? Then he'll tell me, yes, you can go ahead and do that, and surprisingly, in some cases, it's stuff that I wouldn't have thought that you could give out. But that's the process that we use, and it protects us, it protects the individual that's asking for the information, because sometimes it gets confusing what you're actually asking for. In the case of my response, then another question was asked, and it's always interesting when that happens. But I think the basic information that was asked in front of the city council has been answered. So I haven't heard anything back from the individual that asked me about these things, but I thought I would share that with you so that you know and understand.
So did this individual fill out the data request form?
This individual did fill out a form and
Okay.
asked for a specific piece of information that we do not have.
Okay,
And I'll just share with you, the piece of information was, and it was asked here before, wanted a copy of the claim that we submitted for the damages in East Side Park. And there is no such document, because your insurance, you know, if you think about your own insurance, if I get in a car accident, I call up Paul Laton and say, hey, I got in a car accident. And he said, well, okay, I'll start a claim for you, you know, and this is what I want you to do. Maybe go to the body shop, get a quote or whatever, and it's all done by the insurance agent. I don't fill out a form and then submit it to the insurance company so that they have all the information it just doesn't work that way. And then actually in this case, it's still open, it's not closed. And so once it's all said and done, then we will know exactly what it is that the total was. But Whitney ran a total, and I did share that amount with the individual as to what we think it's gonna be, and I think the damage that was done there was known and all that kind of stuff, so.
Yeah, I seen on the audit of city bills that 12,560 came through, and there's about better than half of that yet to come, right?
Right. Yeah, and then, you know, the sound stage still hasn't been dealt with completely, so you never know what's gonna happen.
Man, I tell you what, it's just unbelievable. That-
Yeah.
Caused a lot of
A lot of
damage.
damage there.
Mhm.
So that's what happened with that. I mentioned in here that we did meet and talk about snow alerts and stuff, and actually at the next city council meeting, there's gonna be some information provided to you. I know Aaron's been working with Jason Dingman, and we're talking about the possibility of maybe changing the ordinance and how we deal with snow alerts and stuff like that. But that's just a discussion that will come to the city council at the time. Everything's in place right now to do a snow alert if we need to do one, and we'll just go from there. Hopefully we don't have to use it for a while. And then,
On the snow alert, I know this kind of came up last year too. Is there anything that we have for the landlords to provide people with adequate parking for these alerts? I know that a lot of people get caught in that because they don't have any parking to where they're living. There's just nothing there. Is there anything that we can do about that to try to get these people to provide adequate parking for their tenants, so that in the snow alert, there is a place for them to park their vehicle? I mean, we
Yeah.
get so many tickets for that, and I just think that's so unfair to that person that, in
Well,
that
we have an
situation.
ordinance.
Yeah.
We have an ordinance for that, right?
I can go back and take a look
I
at
thought
that.
Reggie said though, that like it was only, they have to provide one parking spot for like one
Yeah.
kitchen. I mean, it was very minimal, where I thought it was like one per bedroom
Yep.
or.
He's not opposed to people parking in his lot. He's got this big empty lot right now. So I think we don't want to be the ones that are tasked with the responsibility for providing that. But at the same time, property owners should be making a spot for their, one of the things that I remember looking at when I looked at some of this before is that there's a lot of rental properties that have garages that are filled with rental stuff versus being able to put a car in them. But again, I think, and the university, I think, allows, students and faculty that need a place to park a car during an emergency to use one of their parking lots, I think over by Big Cat. So I think that the goal is to get everybody to know and understand where they're gonna put their car during a snow alert, so we don't have to tow any cars.
Well, I think you kind of hit it too, though. I think it's part responsibility of the property owner that's renting to provide spots for the people that are renting their place. I mean, so that they know they have a spot where they can go, or have at least some vehicles parked there. I mean, I think there was a case of a gentleman that he rented a house and there was absolutely no parking for any cars.
Right.
Not even the one that they were driving. So, I mean, I think that there's gotta be, I would like us to look into that a little bit. I think that needs to be leaned on, that side of it, where, you're collecting money, you're getting all the stuff, you need to provide adequate service to have at least a certain number of vehicles for your tenants to park in. Then that will in turn lower the amount of cars that hopefully that we have to tow and deal with as a city.
Yep.
And the sites to notify when we do have a snow emergency.
Right.
Which it seemed like last year we had a few issues with people that claimed they didn't know that there was an emergency. So the different sites, if it's Stevens County or our website, you know, we used to have North Police site, but just all the different things that potentially, and I'm sure the college is notifying everybody out there also, but just.
Yeah, if
to
you
make
go
sure.
to the how-to section on the city website, I think the first item there is how to sign up for a code red alert for, you know, emergency alerts.
And maybe that's part of it too, is where we require the owners to put that information in the household. If they're not providing a parking spot for every individual or so many, to have that there. So there could be information that says, go to this website to be on the red alert for the snow. See, as you get a couple that come here, get a job, rent a house, never lived here, never been in it, don't know where to go, but that information, if it's in the rental unit, it's in front of them. Oh,
Is that
snow
on
alert,
there?
I gotta go to this and this. It's kinda like you do
Sign up for emergency.
anything else.
Yeah.
I think we require just a
I think
little bit of
it
stuff
pulls up the form.
from the landlords. I think you can solve a lot of those smaller issues.
Yeah, I think that the important thing is that we don't want to tow cars.
And that, I think
We don't
that's
want,
one
we
of the
don't
things
want
that we
people
don't
to
wanna
have to
find
go
the
find their
people, no.
car, and we don't want to take
And I
care
don't
of the
wanna
car.
have people come here and complain about
Right,
that
yeah,
either.
so-
That, I mean, so yeah, and even under the how do I, that's in there, sign up
Yeah.
for emergency notifications, but maybe somewhere, yeah, to put, you know, once this is finalized, you know, in
Yeah.
a snow emergency alert, here's where you'd look, or, you know, obviously listen to the, news, Facebook, the newspaper puts that on their Facebook and the radio station. But it's letting people know that's
Yeah, and we'll
the
be doing that
information.
here in the next few days because the system that's in place is the one that's been in place.
Yeah,
You know, the only difference is the sheriff's department will be doing the ticketing and towing, and then I think the only thing that changed was that there was an issue that Aaron identified with tickets and the towing fees. And so right now, if you get your car towed, we require that you pay the ticket and the towing fee before you get your car back. But a ticket is, it's a different kind of a document than an administrative fee for towing. And so then, because we've had at least one person in the past say, well, how do I fight a ticket? You already made me pay it. Well, that's a different process, you know, and you do have a right to challenge a ticket, and you shouldn't have to pay that before you get your car back. But I think Aaron will provide you some information on what they're thinking about potential changes. And we've talked in the past, do we want to change any of the rules that we have? So
Well, and I think it's just part of being a responsible landlord too. I mean, I'm a landlord and I have tenants that live in our apartment and I provide them at least 2 spots for them to park. So I think if you're gonna be in that business and own property, I think it only makes sense that you would try to accommodate your tenants so they're not getting towed.
So that's coming up, and then I threw in a note there, because I met with the MnDOT district engineer, and it's kind of nice, I think what I'll do is I'll scan in the maps that they gave me, and then I'll just send them to you. But every time they come and visit, they will give me a map that has all the projects that they're gonna be doing. I think right now it's through, like the next 10 years. So I did mention that the highway between Morris and Starbucks is going to be done in 2024. That's the closest one to us that's coming up. But one of the things I asked him was about the state demographer's recent estimate of our population being under 5,000. And I asked him, well, what does that mean for us as far as state aid road money and stuff like that? And basically the answer is we had a census that put us over 5,000, so now they gotta wait for another census that would put us under 5,000. Well, the next census is in 2030. And then if we are under 5,000, then there's a 5-year period before they would ever do anything with state aid road funding. So that was good to know coming from them. And you know, we'll see what happens with the population. I know the university population's down, but you know, that could go back up, and then that changes everything that we have going on. And that's all I have, unless you have any questions about
Blaine, I
other
have a couple
things.
questions on the East 7th Street thing. I seen in your newsletter also that you got word that the sewer and sanitary sewer and water on that project for East 7th Street is not eligible for federal funding.
Right.
Now, you indicated that it's a 2024 project. As I look at our long-range plans, that project really isn't even in our 3 to 5 year plan. So is that getting moved up for some reason? And then I guess, before you answer that, though, I also want to ask you this. You know, as you know, we've seen the flags out there today. They were doing some locates, and I think it would be, if we can somehow communicate to the residents out there what's going on. Because if you live out in that area and then all of a sudden you come home from work and you see a bunch of flags out there, people are gonna ask right away, well, what in the world's going on here? So I think it's important for us that if something's going on out there, we need to, number one, communicate to the residents out there what's going on, so they don't think, oh my God, they're gonna start digging, or something to that effect, you know? So, that's all.
So the project that we're talking about for 2024 is not a normal public improvement project for us. It's a federal program that they have that we put in for money for that federal project. And as of right now, I think we're on the table for like $1.6 million of federal funding. But federal funding does not pay for water and sewer. And so then, you know, what happened was MnDOT came back and said that they would like to look at maybe moving that up to 2023. And so what I told Jeff Kuhn is that we don't have any clue, because we haven't started any engineering on a project.
Right.
We don't have any clue what it might cost to do water and sewer. And so that's what they're doing, is they're doing a little bit of survey work. They did a locate so they can find out what utilities are located in our right-of-way, primarily telecommunications and stuff like that, that's in there, natural gas. But that'll give them a better idea of what they're looking at. And then what I've asked them, and then I'll come back to you, is give me a rough idea of what it's gonna cost for water and sewer. Because if the feds aren't gonna pay for it, who's gonna pay for it?
Exactly right.
Are all those people in the neighborhoods there gonna pay for it?
And this work Jeff's doing right now it's not costing us a lot, is it? Or-
No, it's not costing us a lot. You know, it's just some basic survey work, basic estimate work is all they're doing. Because
Okay.
that's the kind of chicken or egg. You know, you don't jump into a project until you know that you're gonna have funding for it. I think the biggest eye-opener was the magnitude of the water and sewer, and maybe that's what stopped the water and sewer the last time any work was done on 7th Street, is how do you pay for it? That,
Right.
you know, maybe that's what we have to have a better idea so we can start going after some funding, maybe from the state legislature when they go into session this next time around, or,
Okay.
you know, how do we borrow money and pay for it? You know, with anticipation that we're gonna wind up doing it.
Yeah, and I guess I agree with where you're going at with this, because, you know, we've had that happen to us before, that, you know, if federal and state money comes available, you have to have a shovel-ready project to do. So that's kind of what we're up to, right?
See, like on Oregon Avenue, all of
Yeah.
a sudden $1 million came
Yep.
open for storm sewer. Storm sewer is eligible.
Yep,
Sanitary sewer isn't, water isn't.
yep,
But maybe there's another program where it is, so
okay.
you gotta have some numbers, you know, we talked about that with everything. You gotta have
Yep.
some idea what you're talking about, whether it's a concession stand in Wells Park or whatever.
We talked about it 2 weeks
Makes
ago at our last meeting. I mean, we did discuss this.
Yeah. A little
That we
bit,
need to
yeah.
have a plan.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so,
that there was
so this
funding
is,
potentially available. And
this
we
is
needed
one
to
more
use it,
step
so.
towards figuring out a plan. I just,
I know that.
you know, and actually,
I'm just saying, if you see,
yeah,
you know, for the residents, all
Yeah.
I'm saying is if you come home and you see a bunch of flags there, I mean, if you lived out there, you probably
Yeah.
wondering the same thing, you know? So,
well, and then the same thing happened on 9.
yeah.
Because they had to do a little bit of survey work for this Highway 9 sidewalk project. You know, that would be funded by the state, you know, but then they had some questions about some elevations and stuff like that, but, so
Okay.
that's kind of that.
All right,
And then that last item that popped up was, we set a canvassing board, but then we realized that we couldn't do it at that time because you can't have your canvassing board till at least the 12th, and then it's gotta be done before the 18th, so those are the 2 dates. So I don't know if Monday works for you at any time, or what do you wanna do? Sheldon, I think is gonna be back Sunday, so he'd be available, he mentioned that.
so it has Monday, anytime after Monday?
Yeah, after the 12th.
Um,
Or
That's Saturday, Sunday, Monday, okay,
I think I can make the 14th work.
yeah,
Yeah, I can make it work.
I can too.
so can I. Time?
What time do you
It'd be
wanna,
better for me to get it done with, so.
The 14th, is that Tuesday? Monday.
Monday?
Like 8 early or 7:30 early or?
7, 8
Eight
would be
is fine.
8 o'clock?
8 o'clock.
Monday morning?
Monday morning, and we'll meet here.
here.
Council chamber, so 8 o'clock Monday morning, 14th, right here. All right.
Got a
any-
motion?
Oh, we need a motion?
Yeah, do a motion to set it, please.
All right, I'll move for rescheduling the canvassing meeting for Monday, November 14th at 8 a.m. here at council chambers.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Any other informational items? Okay, with that, meeting adjourned.